What if love is not a coincidence? What if the person you're married to or the ones you loved and lost weren't just chapters in a chaotic romance, but mirrors pulled from lifetimes of unfinished lessons? Imagine that the ache in your chest isn't just heartbreak, but memory. Memory without a name, memory without a clear beginning. So before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. Now breathe. We're going somewhere quiet. It starts in that strangely familiar moment, sitting alone at your kitchen table, a cup of coffee losing its warmth in your hands, and a sudden thought: why him? Why her? Why did I marry this person? And for some, why have I never found love at all? Not in a bitter way, just in that quiet, aching kind of curiosity that visits you in the soft hours. Was it timing, luck, or something older, something deeper? According to Buddhism, it's karma. But not the Instagram version. Not the what goes around comes around cliché. No, karma here isn't vengeance dressed up in spiritual makeup. It's subtle, precise. The invisible law of cause and effect stretching across time, not just this life, but lifetimes. Your intentions, your actions, your energy, they all echo forward. They shape who you're drawn to, who is drawn to you, and what plays out when your stories collide. Love is not random, it's remembered. You may not consciously recall that soul, but your spirit does. The moment your eyes meet, there's a pull, a quiet tension, a warmth, or a warning. These are not just hormones. They're old threads retightening, knots that weren't untied in another life, blooming again as intimacy in this one. Have you ever felt instantly connected to someone you just met, or repelled? These surges are not coincidences, they're karmic traces. Maybe you supported them in a past life, or betrayed them. Maybe you made a vow, or broke one. And now you're brought together not for romance, but for resolution. Let's take Helen and James, a couple I met during a silent retreat, married over 50 years. I asked Helen once what kept them together. She smiled and said, "I think we've done this before." James chuckled, but you could see it in his eyes. They'd fought, nearly walked away, but there was something in their bond, something deeper than logic. "I always felt like we weren't done with each other," she told me. That's karma, not chains, just unfinished stories. Some marriages are calm, kind, effortless. These are often fruits of past life goodwill, relationships rooted in mutual care and sincerity. But others are storms, passionate, chaotic, filled with longing and conflict. These may be karmic debts rising to the surface, demanding to be felt and understood. The partner who triggers you most might be your greatest mirror, not to torment you, but to show you what's still unhealed in you. Maybe your marriage is a mirror for your fear of abandonment, your need to be needed, your belief that you're not worthy unless you sacrifice. That reflection is not punishment, it's the curriculum. The Buddha taught that karma isn't fixed, it's not fate, it's reflection. And you can change what you reflect. You can clear it, soften it, rewrite it. But it starts with asking not, why did I end up with them? But what does this relationship reflect back to me? What pattern do I keep bringing into love? Is it loneliness disguised as romance? Is it fear dressed up as commitment? You see, karma doesn't deliver what you want. It delivers what you're ready for, what you're resonating with, what you still need to learn. If you've never been married, the question shifts. Not what's wrong with me, but what lesson is love waiting for me to understand? It's not about being incomplete. It's about being in alignment. And alignment doesn't come from trying to find the perfect person. It comes from becoming the kind of person who doesn't chase love, but embodies it. The first lesson in all of this is not about dating advice. It's not even about marriage. It's about awareness, about beginning to see your relationships, past and present, as echoes, as invitations, as soul contracts waiting for your full presence. So when you sit again with that cup of coffee and the question returns, why them? Why me? Why not yet? Remember, the answer may be older than your name, and the person you love or will love isn't just arriving by fate, they're arriving because your energy called them. So what happens when the love that found you starts to hurt you? Not in the dramatic movie ending way, but in the slow ache of disconnection, the quiet resentment, the long silences that used to be comfort but now feel like distance. Why do some marriages that begin in affection, honest, tender, hopeful, become battlegrounds of unmet needs and emotional withdrawal. Buddhism answers not with blame, but with vibration. Karma, remember, is not punishment. It's not a scoreboard tallying your sins. It's vibration, resonance, a soul-level echo that calls forth the people, experiences, and lessons that mirror what still lives within you, including pain, especially pain. The person you married didn't just bring their habits or humor, they brought their past. So did you. You carried in your unmet needs, your childhood fears, your love language shaped by parents or absence. You brought your story, they brought theirs. And those stories, when unspoken, start to clash. Some relationships are karmic debts being repaid, not because you were bad in a past life, but because something was left incomplete. Maybe you abandoned them once, or maybe you both made a promise to stay, and this life is where that promise is tested, not by flowers but by fire. Let me tell you about Judith, a woman I met at a Zen temple in Oregon. She had been married for over 40 years to a man she called hard to love, distant, angry, withdrawn. There were decades when she felt invisible, and yet she stayed, not out of weakness, but out of knowing. She said, "I used to think he was the reason I was unhappy. Now I see he was the mirror showing me where I hadn't yet learned to love myself." That's the kind of wisdom you don't find on dating apps. That's karmic insight. And yet, let's be very clear, this is not an excuse to romanticize abuse. If your marriage is emotionally or physically damaging, the karmic lesson may be to leave, not with hatred, but with clarity. Some contracts are ended not because of failure, but because they've fulfilled their lesson. But for many others, the suffering in a relationship is less about danger and more about denial of your needs, your voice, your patterns. You keep chasing someone who withdraws. You keep staying quiet to avoid conflict. You beg for love instead of embodying it. And the deeper question is not, why are they like this, but why am I still here? Because karmic repetition is real. The same dynamic, different faces. If all your relationships echo abandonment, that's not random. That's a loop, and loops are broken through awareness, not avoidance. Sometimes you're not in love, you're in a karmic rehearsal. The Buddha taught that pain is inevitable, but suffering is optional. That means you don't have to keep living inside that loop. But first, you must understand the pattern. Are you trying to fix a parent through your partner? Are you addicted to drama because stillness feels like emptiness? Are you afraid that if you walk away, you'll prove your deepest fear, that you are unworthy of love? These questions are not punishments. They're keys. Keys to unlock the prison cell of karmic repetition. And the first step is always stillness. Sit down. Breathe. Look honestly, not at them, at you. What wound are they exposing? What version of yourself do they make you feel like? And what would change if you stopped trying to get them to love you a certain way and started loving yourself in the way you most needed? This is not easy work, but it's sacred. You might cry, you might rage, you might grieve the years you lost trying to change someone else. But eventually, if you stay present, you'll find the teaching. Sometimes the karmic lesson is to forgive. Sometimes it's to leave. Sometimes it's to stop playing the victim and own the fact that you've been handing your power to people who never asked for it. And sometimes it's to stay, but from a place of truth, not fear. To love more skillfully, to detach without disconnecting, to speak your needs without manipulation, to hold space for growth, but not for toxicity. Judith stayed, but not to fix him. She stayed to become free inside herself. That's the difference. So ask yourself, in your marriage, or the one that broke, or the one you long for, what is the karma? Not what's the blame, what's the lesson? Because only when you learn it, does the cycle end. Let's talk about longing. Longing for a partner, longing for connection, longing for someone who just gets it, who sees you in all your complexity, your softness, your scars, and still stays. We chase this longing like it's a finish line, like love once found will fix the rest. But Buddhism asks something radical. Don't chase the right person, become them. You see, most people look for love the way children look for treasure, excited, desperate, impatient. But the truth is, your relationship will never exceed your current vibration. In Buddhist terms, that means you attract not what you want, but what you are ready for. So ask yourself, not where's my person, but am I living in a way that love would recognize? Because love doesn't just find you. Love feels for resonance, for readiness, for depth. And karma listens not to what you beg for at night, but to how you behave in the daylight. This is the teaching of phước, or blessings, spiritual merit. Not the same as luck, not superstition. Blessings are earned, slowly, quietly, in the way you treat others, in the honesty of your speech, in the presence you give when no one is watching. I once heard Taiminan say, "You cannot enter a relationship greater than your own blessings." That struck me, because in a world obsessed with lists, tall, kind, smart, successful, he reminded me, blessings are the real currency. You want a partner who listens deeply? Then stop interrupting people. You want someone emotionally honest? Then stop hiding your truth. You want love that feels peaceful? Then stop living in chaos. Because the universe doesn't respond to your desires. It responds to your energy. Let me share the story of Charles. Charles was 62 when I met him. Divorced for 20 years. Bitterness was his armor. Every story he told ended with, "She ruined me." And yet he still longed for love. Still dated. Still hoped. But nothing lasted. One day in quiet reflection he asked, "Why does everyone leave?" And I said gently, "Because you never let go of the one who already did." That was the beginning, not of dating advice, but of karmic realignment. Charles started meditating, writing unsent letters, apologizing not to her but within himself for the ways he'd contributed to the collapse. He didn't rewrite history. He just stopped blaming her for his loneliness, and something softened. Within a year he met someone. Not fireworks, not drama, but peace. He told me, "I didn't fall in love, I fell into clarity." That's karma shifting, because when you release old energy, new blessings arrive, but not always in the form you imagined. Sometimes it's not a new partner, sometimes it's peace. Sometimes it's the deep stillness of not needing anyone to complete you. And from that wholeness, love comes, not as a rescuer, but as a companion. So how do you start cultivating these blessings? Be honest, especially with yourself. What wounds are you still projecting onto others? What narratives are you using to excuse unkindness or manipulation? Forgive, not for their sake, but for your freedom. Write the letter you never sent. Burn it. Whisper forgiveness in the silence, not to forget, but to unchain yourself. Make space, clean your room, delete the messages you keep rereading, release the fantasy, let go of the ghost. Love needs room, not just in your schedule, in your soul. Live like love is already here. Speak kindly, not to impress, but because kindness is a love language. Be loyal in small things, be present in boring moments. Blessings bloom in stillness, not in spectacle. There's a Vietnamese phrase, "Tâm mình là Phật, thì chuyện gì cũng hóa Phật." When your heart is Buddha, even your problems become Buddha. So let your heart become a place where love feels safe. Let your life become the kind of energy that love would want to stay inside. Because no matter how long you've waited, no matter how often it didn't work, you're not too late, you're not broken, you're not doomed, you're just being called inward. Not to hide, but to prepare. Because real love doesn't rush. It arrives when you are finally still enough to receive it. There's a moment, maybe in your 40s, maybe your 60s, maybe in the middle of one of those long, quiet nights, when you realize the same heartbreak has kept returning with different names. You've loved different people, but the feeling, the betrayal, the ache of being unseen, unloved, misunderstood, it's hauntingly familiar, like a karmic echo bouncing back at you each time you thought you'd escaped it. That's not coincidence, that's a loop. And Buddhism teaches, if a pattern keeps showing up in your life, it's not punishment, it's a mirror, a message, a wound, still asking to be healed. So let's talk about breaking the cycle. Not by burning bridges or swearing off love forever, but by finally turning inward and asking, what am I still carrying? Because here's the thing, what you don't resolve, you repeat. You might think you're moving on, starting fresh, loving someone new, but if the emotional residue of your past still clings to you, like smoke in your clothes after a fire, you'll keep attracting the same flames. Old karmas don't vanish, they wait. I once met a woman named Teresa, 68, soft-spoken and dignified, who hadn't been in a relationship since her divorce 20 years prior. "They always remind me of him," she'd say when someone new came close. "It's not the right time." But when we sat quietly one afternoon, she finally admitted, "It's not them I'm afraid of, it's being hurt again." That was the truth she'd been avoiding. The past was still alive, not in her ex, in her. Unhealed pain turns into armor. But the tragedy is, armor keeps out love too. So how do you start letting go of karmic baggage? Step 1. Recognize the pattern. Look at your past relationships. Not the people, but the feelings. Was it always abandonment? Always not being enough? Always having to fix, to chase, to beg for affection? Those are your karmic fingerprints. Step 2. Pause at the trigger. When your partner says something and it stings far deeper than it should, ask, is this about now, or am I reacting to a wound from long ago? Often we bleed from places no one ever cut. Step 3. Forgive. Not to let them off the hook, but to let yourself off the leash. Forgiveness in Buddhism is not weakness, it's liberation. It's saying, I no longer give you power over how I love. You don't have to say it to their face. You can write it in a journal, whisper it to the wind, or breathe it out on your meditation cushion. But say it. Let it go. Not because they deserve peace, but because you do. Step 4. Make room. Love can't enter a space already cluttered with resentment, fantasies of revenge, or nostalgia for a past that never truly fit. Let go. That box of old letters, that playlist that still plays your song, that unopened message you keep rereading hoping it'll say something different. Clean the altar of your heart, because until you do, new love won't find you. Or worse, it will, and you'll sabotage it with ghosts. As Thich Nhat Hanh once said, you must love in such a way that the person you love feels free. That includes yourself. And here's the paradox. When you let go of the karmic weight you've been dragging, what comes next doesn't feel like compensation. It feels like peace. You might find a partner, or not. That's not the point. The point is this: you'll stop needing someone else to rescue you from the emotional history you were always meant to heal yourself. Letting go doesn't mean forgetting. It means choosing presence over repetition. It means saying, I will no longer punish myself for someone else's wounds. I will no longer cast future partners in the roles of past villains. It means saying, I am not what happened to me. I am the one who chooses what happens next. This is karmic maturity. This is spiritual adulthood. And when you step into that, truly step into that, the past begins to dissolve. Not because it didn't happen, but because it no longer owns you. You become free, not just to love again, but to love with awareness, with boundaries, with softness and strength braided together. So if you've noticed the same story playing on loop in your love life, maybe it's time to stop changing the characters and start changing the script. Because you're not cursed. You're not unlovable. You're just being invited, by the universe, by your karma, by your own soul, to finally put the old story down. So something new can begin. Somewhere along the path of love, we've been sold a dream that's too small for the soul. Find the right person, fall in love, get married, stay together, as if that's the whole journey. But what if that's not the summit, just the first step? Because what truly lasts, what nourishes, liberates, and elevates, can't be built only on chemistry, comfort, or matching lifestyles. It must be built on spiritual alignment. Not dogma, not shared playlists, but something quieter, deeper. A resonance of values, a shared inner direction, a mutual reverence for what love can be when it is practiced, not just felt. This is not a relationship where you complete each other. This is a relationship where you accompany each other. Two evolving souls, choosing to walk the same path, side by side, not tangled. So what does spiritual alignment in love really mean? It begins here. Peace over drama, honesty over convenience, growth over comfort, presence over performance. I remember an elderly couple, both in their 80s, who spoke at a Buddhist gathering. When asked how they stayed together through wars, children, betrayals, illnesses, and all the wear and tear of time, the husband chuckled and said, "One of us always chose to be the water. If she burned, he cooled. If he raged, she breathed. Not out of perfection, but out of practice." That is spiritual maturity. And it doesn't arrive by chance. It's cultivated. So ask yourself, not how do I find the right person, but am I becoming someone who creates peace? Because a relationship cannot exceed the spiritual integrity of the people inside it. If you are reactive, your love will become turbulent. If you are anxious, your love will become tense. If you are grounded, your love will become sanctuary. It's not about never fighting, it's about how you fight. Do you attack or inquire? Do you defend or listen? Do you seek to win or to understand? When your relationship is spiritually aligned, conflict doesn't destroy, it reveals. Your partner becomes a kalyanamitta, a spiritual friend, not your savior, not your prize, not your burden, but your fellow traveler. And like all sacred relationships, it is tended, not assumed. Think of your connection like a garden. You don't yell at the flowers when they don't bloom. You check the soil, you water, you prune, you weed. That's what love asks of us, care. But how do you even begin to build this? First, look inward. Ask, am I living a life I would want to share with someone? Am I honest when it's hard, kind when I don't feel like it? Am I someone who creates emotional safety? These aren't lofty ideals, they're invitations. Second, practice stillness. You cannot build a spiritually aligned relationship on constant movement, chasing, escaping, reacting. You must learn to be with yourself first, to meet your aloneness, not with fear, but with curiosity. Because two whole people create one whole love. Third, create small rituals, not grand gestures, sacred moments, a silent hand squeeze before sleep, a shared walk after a hard day, a pause before a meal to say, may this food nourish not just our bodies, but our patience, our presence, our partnership. It's not the ritual, it's the reverence, because reverence turns routine into offering. And last, stay awake. It's easy to fall asleep in long-term love, to reduce your partner to their habits, to stop listening, to speak from assumptions rather than presence. But if you want your relationship to remain spiritually alive, you must remain emotionally awake. Every day, choose to see them new. Every day, ask not just do you love me, but how can I love you better? And if you're still alone, if no one has walked in yet, don't despair. This isn't about rushing into union. It's about preparing a space where love can land, feel safe, and thrive. The partner you seek may be seeking you too. But karma only introduces souls when the invitation is honest. So make yourself ready, not desperate. Radiate the kind of peace you long to receive. Treat yourself the way you wish to be treated. Speak with love, live with integrity, and trust that love, when it's aligned, won't feel like rescue. It will feel like home. And when you find that, when you wake up beside someone whose spirit matches yours, not in sameness but in sincerity, you'll realize that love was never about finding someone to fix you. It was about walking beside someone as you both become free. That is the relationship Buddhism points to. Not perfect, but awake. Not flawless, but fertile. A relationship that is a practice, a path, a prayer. And if you're lucky enough to find it, or wise enough to become it, then love, in its truest form, will stop being a question. And now we arrive at the edge of the story, where words grow still and the heart does the listening. If you've stayed with me this far, perhaps something in you remembers what love was always meant to be. Not a possession, not a prize, but a reflection. A mirror polished by the soul's own yearning to see itself clearly. Maybe the people who came into your life weren't detours, maybe they were Dharma. And maybe, just maybe, the relationship you're seeking out there begins with the sanctuary you build in here. So as you close this episode, carry this like a mantra. Love is karma, but karma is a choice. You are never trapped in the story that hurt you. You are always shaping the one that will heal you. With every act of compassion, you rewrite the thread. With every moment of presence, you invite peace in. And with every time you choose to see, not just be seen, you become what you were always meant to be, a home. For yourself, for love, for awakening.